Good evening, and welcome to the relaunch of The Cell Phone of Deception. With me today is filmmaker Bodhi.
Thank you, Ryan. It's an honor to be here.
Well, we're glad you could make it. Tell me, what part of this film did you play? Were you screenwriter, director, producer?
You know, I would think that this would be an appropriate occasion to use the word visionary. Because I really had a definite, and you'll see when we roll the clip here in just a couple of minutes, but you'll see that I had, a true vision for a style and a sort of theme that I wanted the audience not just to ingest intellectually, but really feel on a visceral and gut level. But yeah, I think we'll discuss it more after we roll camera. You want to give us the introduction?
Be sure to stay tuned after the film to see an exclusive interview with filmmaker Bodhi.
Look! Hello? I got the tickets.
Midnight, the day is closing down.
So I'm not going. Why don't you lay down some furry leash while you're at it?
I don't know how to play that stupid thing.
It's not that hard. It's really simple. It's just... a blatant total lack of interest isn't helping. What happened? I swear to God, if you say...
She...
Ah, Christ, it's one of those. I'm gonna warn you, I've had nowhere near enough alcohol for this conversation.
Dude, maybe people just need someone to listen to them sometimes.
What do you want me to say? If I had the answer as to why women were crazy, we'd be billionaires. No, I know, you're smirking and it's funny, but it's the truth. I mean, think about it. They go off and they blame that whole bleeding thing on why they're insane, and then they turn around and act crazy to us. Which is really insane because it's clearly God's fault. Something about recycling eggs and making babies. I don't know. What did she even say to you?
Well, she hasn't said anything yet. She was supposed to call, and she hasn't.
So her cell phone's dead.
She's not that kind of person, Brandon.
Oh, I didn't know she wasn't a woman.
No, she's smart. She's just not the kind of person that will let her phone die.
She has spaghetti for brains. Not her fault. Genetics. We blame God for that.
She hasn't called because... She's not calling because of something I must have done.
I honestly think that you're overreacting, and it's costing me movie tickets.
You just don't take things seriously enough.
You're just deaf. And you know what? Your fascination with the Spice Girls is pretty sick. She's calling you right now.
Wait, what, really?
Yes. I can hear and everything. Well, watch out for the... Never mind.
Yo!
I'm in here.
What the hell's Luke at? I waited at that theater for like... ever. You guys missed a great movie.
Could you please never tell me that again? I have very little happiness in my life, and if I miss a good movie, I just might murder the one responsible for me missing the good movie. What's the verdict?
Her phone died.
Welcome back. And I have with me filmmaker Bodhi. So, Bodhi, my first question to you is, what was your major source of inspiration for this piece?
I think, obviously, my biggest source of inspiration is the amazing filmmaker Tommy Wiseau, or Dr. Wiseau, as I like to think of him. Namaste. Oh, and that Josh Whedon guy who's directing one of those Captain America or some shit movies. But yeah.
So, what were the major themes you were trying to tackle?
Well, I think, obviously, the first major theme that we were trying to tackle was spirituality.
So, a lot of responses from viewers were that you were playing the character a little bit effeminate. Tell me, was that intentional? And if so, what was the point you were trying to make?
Well, I think that along with spirituality, obviously, and I think this is really the biggest theme, or the biggest set of themes, is it was really meant to address, first of all, human sexuality. And by sort of, framing the story in a way where all of the action takes place off screen. This is why we see the basketball, coming downstairs, but we don't see the person. It's about, what's not there or what's missing from the action. That's why when the ball is coming down the stairs, you notice that there's no sound of the ball bouncing. It's sort of alerting you to, hey, what's missing from this scene. Well, I think also, and this brings us to my second theme, is it's really about how we view ourselves and how others view us. It's about, a reflection, not, looking at the actual picture, but just, sort of a reflection. That's why we have that shot, sort of midway through the piece, where we see Garrett reflected through the mirror, because we're not really looking directly at him, we're looking at a reflection of him who is being reflected back to us. Who is it that's being reflected back to us when we see things in a reflection? We see the big picture, but now in the big picture, in the scope of the big picture, when we look at our reflection, we see us, our faces being reflected back to us. It's sort of like, peeling back layers, like Tommy Wiseau did with The Room, sort of like an onion, sort of like the onion, you're just peeling back layer after layer and getting behind, getting underneath what's underneath the surface, what's underneath the visuals that you see, and getting underneath to what's the beating heart of the human condition, and I think that's what's on display here, is this beautiful beating heart of the human condition.
So, what was your ultimate vision for this film?
Well, and I'm glad that you asked that, because I really, underneath, this character-driven, this very personal story that I was telling, and underneath all of these, very complex layers of themes, underneath, this sort of, homage to Dr. Wiseau, namaste, I think what I was ultimately trying to get at is, I'm sort of obsessed with these situations where you're sort of trapped in this area that you can't escape from. And I think being trapped is what is the essence of, something you would refer to as Kafkaesque. I was trying to create this very, Kafkaesque environment.
Kafkaesque?
Kafkaesque, yes. And in doing so, I also wanted to use very Gothic sensibilities. So, sort of like a Gothic Kafka, or as what I'm going to be referring to this as, and I think this is going to become, the next great movement of film, is Gothkaesque. Gothkaesque. It's capturing both the essence of Gothic film sensibilities and the trappedness that a Kafkaesque piece would entail. Gothkaesque. I think right now, Stephanie Myers, so Dr. Myers, namaste. I think what she did with her Opus, really, Twilight series, sort of created what I think is going to be considered, when historians look back on it, as sort of proto-Gothka-esque, in the same way that Nietzsche was sort of proto-existentialism. I think that's how we're going to look at people like Dr. Myers, Namaste, or Dr. Wiseau, Namaste. They're going to be sort of, this proto-Gothica-esque movement. And look on Wikipedia, guys. It's going to be up there very soon. And I just know that I feel very honored and almost humbled, really. It's very humbling when you can say, yes, I am sort of the godfather and the architect and the visionary, the mind behind, not just one piece of art, but an entire, filmic movement. And I just don't see any way that the Gothica-esque movement is not going to be something that's going to become, huge, and something that historians are going to be talking about, in the same way that they talk about film noir or, Hitchcockian styles. They're always going to be a place set aside in film history for Bodhi's Namaste, Gothica-esque film style.
Okay, well, Bodhi, we thank you for your time today.
Namaste, thank you. It's really been a pleasure that you invited me on here so that I could sort of talk about, the meaning of this film and what it really means to me personally, and how, it sort of helps me to connect with, my inner spirit and my inner self, and really, be, a better and a more full and complete person. I know that this has touched my life, and I want it to touch other people's lives as well. And you've given me an opportunity to, sort of reach that hand, make that connection. This is sort of like, I want to address you, the audience. This is sort of like, me reaching my hand out and saying, come join me on this very spiritual path. Join me on the Gothica-esque movement. Don't be afraid. Grab my hand now and let's go into this abyss. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Namaste.
And thank you.